with the overarching idea being that you're going to speak in front of your ideal audience as the authority, the gal or guy that literally wrote the book on the subject matter, so that you can connect with them more and potentially help them in greater ways, which will, of course, mean more money, opportunity, impact to them and for you. All right, here we go. Rob here with Bestseller Publishing. This is our BSPU call. I think we have some good topics of discussion. They're going to dive deep in a topic that is near and dear to my heart, but also one that maybe I don't talk about as much because I don't do it as much as I used to. And that is the power of speaking and using speaking engagements and how to use your book to get speaking engagements. I'm going to give you a real step-by-step. I'm going to share with you a couple of ways that our clients are doing it, ways that I've done it in the past, and also some ways that you can potentially monetize the back end of it as well. So I want to talk about the power of speaking first, and certainly I want to talk about the steps to actually get great speaking engagements, even if you've never gotten a speaking engagement before. So a couple of things, and let's start off with some definitions. Number one, let's define what a speaking engagement is, which seems really simple, but I like to give a little bit of a definition because some people think of a speaking engagement for their book and they just think in terms of a paid engagement. In other words, someone is writing you a check, someone is giving you $5 grand, 10 grand, whatever, to come out and to, spew your magic for 60 minutes and then you leave. And that certainly is a speaking engagement, but that isn't, believe it or not, predominantly the one that will make you the most money. Unless, of course, you're, a very famous person like a President Obama or, former president, et cetera, that's getting $500,000 for a speaking engagement or $1 million for a speaking engagement, then sure, that racks up really fast. But $5,000 or $10,000, while that is better than a sharp stick in the eye, there are better ways to monetize your speaking opportunities. So that is an opportunity, but I'm going to talk not only about that kind of opportunity, I'm going to talk about opportunities that you're going to get where you're going to be able to present your magic and your material and not be paid anything. And you might say, well, why would I want to do that? Well, you'll want to do that if you're speaking in front of your ideal audience. You see, I've really only been paid once or maybe twice for a speaking engagement. And those kind of speaking engagements are nice. I did a 60-minute speaking engagement to a big sales team probably 2 years ago. And, got cut a $5,000 check to do that. I don't do that very much. Only reason I did it is because it was here locally. I could drive to it and do it, pick up my check, which actually came in early, and then leave. But, and if you ever heard me tell this story, and I actually talk about it in the book, I actually lost money during that speaking engagement because I didn't pay attention to my calendar. You see, a speaking engagement that I've done every year is at Russell Brunson's event. And of course, many of you know Russell is a friend of mine. He's a client of mine. I've also been a client of his, part of his inner circle. He runs ClickFunnels, incredibly successful $100 million a year company. And he puts on his funnel hacking live event every year. And I've always done a speaking engagement to that group, et cetera. And I've never been paid to do it, but I have never left that opportunity without 6 figures in new clients. So even though I wasn't paid to do it, and literally I had to pay for my housing and pay for my flight and pay for all that stuff, it has been a 6-figure opportunity for me. Now, how did I lose money? Well, I didn't pay attention to my schedule. And actually, the very day that I was paid $5,000 to do a speaking engagement in Orange County, California, was the very day that I had committed to doing a speaking engagement for Russell at Funnel Hacking Live 2 years ago. And because I had already accepted the money and signed a contract, and I wasn't going to run out on the people that paid me, I took the $5,000, did the speaking engagement. I flew out the next day to Funnel Hacking Live, and I wasn't able to do my speaking opportunity there. And so I actually lost money because I didn't speak for free. Instead, I spoke to get paid. So the audience that you're speaking to is really the primary focus, the primary most important thing that you want to think about when it comes time to having great speaking opportunities. When I'm speaking in front of a bunch of salespeople that work for a big sales organization that aren't going or aren't interested to do a book with me, then I miss out on all of the back end potential book deals that I could do. Whereas with Russell in front of maybe thousands of people that many of which are interested in doing book deals, that's where there's a big opportunity for me. So I have a speaking engagement coming up in Hawaii, and that is completely free. I've got to pay to get out to Hawaii, got to pay for my hotel. Of course, I'm bringing my wife, of course, not of course, but we want to make it a nice time. So we got a, nice hotel with balcony right on the ocean, first class airfare. I mean, it's costing me $7,000 before I even pay for a meal to get out to Hawaii. Now, I didn't have to take my wife and I didn't have to fly first class, but the last time I did this speaking engagement, I did over $100,000 in sales in new clients that I brought on. So you always want to think in terms of, am I speaking to the right audience? So when I define what a speaking engagement is, I want you to define it as, it doesn't matter if it's free, doesn't matter if they pay you, and even if you write a check to them, which I've done on a number of occasions. Those of you who know Shanda Sumter know that I have sponsored her event many times in the past. She's a past client of Bestseller Publishing, a dear friend of mine, and I've spoken on her stage a number of times. Why? Because speaking in front of 1,000 of her clients gives me an opportunity to let them get to know me, and those that want to do books, write books with me. And so that's made us hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I will always define, and I recommend you define a speaking engagement or opportunity as one in which you are speaking to your ideal audience, okay? Because that's where the real opportunity is, by selling them more expensive things that you can help them with, whether that's coaching, consulting, service, advice, etc., information products, all of those things. You're gonna make the biggest bang for the buck. You're gonna make a great income and an impact. So now let's talk about kind of a 3-step strategy for you to get speaking engagements, now that we've kind of nailed down what the definition of a speaking engagement is. So I talk about this a little bit in my book. I'm going to go into great detail in it, but I like to name things, as you know, and so I call this the TAP process. It's 3 steps. The first step is your target. The second step is defining your assets. And the third step is starting your process. So let's go through each one of these steps to get speaking engagements, with the overarching idea being that you're going to speak in front of your ideal audience as the authority, the gal or guy that literally wrote the book on the subject matter, so that you can connect with them more and potentially help them in greater ways, which will, of course, mean more money, opportunity, impact to them and for you. So let's first talk about target. I've already mentioned you want to speak in front of your ideal client. That means you need to know a couple of things. Number one, you need to really be clear on who your ideal client is, like crystal clear. Now, hopefully, if you've written your book with us, we've gone in deep and we've looked at who is your ideal client, what are their fears and frustrations, what are their wants and aspirations. We've done some psychographic analysis, some demographic analysis, and we've really tried to discover who it is that you're serving with your book and with your magic. If you haven't done that and you're listening to this or watching this, then understand you need to be as narrow and dive as deeply as you can on this subject matter, because you want to be specific about who that person is, so that you can determine the next thing, which is, where are they? Okay. Now, from a speaking engagement perspective, the where are they means, what associations do they belong to? What conferences do they go to? And what local events or meetups might they be going to on a regular basis? You need to begin in this target phase. You need to begin listing out who my ideal client is, right? In some cases, this may be easy for you. In some cases, this may be difficult. If you are somebody that helps dentists to grow their practice, then it's easy. Your ideal client is any dentist, right? then you just need to think about what dental associations there are. You need to think about what conferences that have dentists at them. You need to think about what local events a dentist might go to. Easy. But if you serve a broader clientele, then you need to try to narrow that down a little bit and figure out where those people are. So you're going to figure out who they are, you're going to figure out where they are, then you're going to begin to compile the list of those places. The conferences, the associations, the private organizations, as well as the local organizations where they may be going to. You want the name of the organizer, you want the address of the organizer, you want a telephone number, you want an email address, you want all of that contact information. I'm not going to talk about how you get it. You can use the Googles, you can use LinkedIn, you can use social media like Instagram or Facebook to hunt them down. There's lots of ways you can do it. Just Google how to best find somebody and you can. So first you nail the target. Step two is you need to consider what your assets are to connect with these targets. When I say assets, what I'm thinking of is your sphere of influence and your connections primarily on social media. So if you're in the business space, then what's the number one place that you should look to connect with any of these target managers of associations or conferences or local groups? Well, LinkedIn. Right? LinkedIn is the best place to go where you can go for free. All you have to use is a little bit of elbow grease and searching. And now you can target, okay, you found out who handles this association's meetings. And now, and by the way, that can be online or a local speaking event or a national speaking event. Now you've found them. The next step is for you to connect with them. And LinkedIn is a great, great place for you to connect with them. The second place that you should always look is previous gigs or referrals. So if you're a speaker or you've spoken in the past or you're connected in various business groups, you should contact those people. You should be in touch with previous places that you've spoken for, and you should always look for, hey, do you know the head of this association? Do you know this individual that runs this conference? Same with local meetups, same with local organizations, chambers of commerce, etc. Referrals are a fantastic way to connect. Obviously, LinkedIn is a great way to cold connect with people, but if for some reason the cold connection doesn't work and you have a warm connection through a referral, that's so much better. One way to do it, obviously, if you know who that person is, like if you've spoken at a gig in the past and you know that there might be, or you think there might be a connection with other associations or organizations, then you contact them directly. But you know what? If you're in business groups and you're known as a giver, where you're building relationships, you're answering questions, you're serving people, when you ask a question like, hey, does anybody know XYZ from this corporation? Or does anybody know XYZ from this association? When people know, and I've seen people do this a lot on social media, they get connected. But they only get connected if they've been viewed as givers in their communities, right? So if you're somebody that gives on social media, that connects people, that serves, that answers questions, when you ask a question like, does someone know this person and can I get a connection to them? Then one of your Facebook friends, right? Not real friends, but Facebook friends will connect you. And it's a great way to use that asset. By the way, if you don't have that asset right now, meaning you have a Facebook page, you have a Facebook profile, but you're kind of dead in it, then you know what? You should build that profile up by just going into business groups, answering questions, serve, give. Spend 10 or 15 minutes a day giving, and you will build great following and great relationships. And when it's time for you to ask, people will dive in and help. Then the next thing is social media and content is a great way to continue to build those resources, to continue to build those connections that people can connect you to the right person. So you find the target. I've given you the details on that. You use your assets to connect with the target. Even if your only asset is a cold connection through LinkedIn, you can still connect with them. And then last but not least is having a process. Now, I share this example because I think it's a really good one. I have a good friend and a client, Roddy Chong. Some of you have heard me talk about Roddy. Great guy, Amazing musician. He's the lead violinist for Trans-Siberian Orchestra. They play like 60 gigs over like a 45-day period during like Christmas and the fall. And previously, he was the lead violinist for Shania Twain. In fact, he just played with Shania not long ago. And he was the lead violinist for Celine Dion. So this guy, top of his game, worked with the biggest A-list musicians in the world. Now, Roddy is also, we're doing a book for him, and he's also a professional speaker and does like the most amazing speaking engagement where it's a combination of his story, playing the violin, talking about Celine. It's amazing. And so what Roddy does, now this is prior to his book being done, and his book isn't quite done yet. And I just met with Roddy not a week ago. He was out at my house. We were doing some filming for a video that he has coming out. But what Roddy did in the past, and what you should do, and what will work amazingly well with your book, is using your book to make cold relationships warm. So literally what Roddy would do and how he would book speaking engagements, and I'm talking major engagements in front of 5,000 people, is he would pick up the phone and cold call organizations, conferences, associations. And it worked. Cold calling still works. Now, I'm not recommending that to you. I have a better way for you to do it, but I tell that story because I want you to know Roddy booked $10,000 engagements. Now, he's also Roddy Chong, but they didn't know that when they picked up the phone, right? He had to warm them up over a little bit of time. But you can book through cold contacts, amazing relationships, and amazing engagements. Here's how you do it with your book. Here's what your process is. You now have the list of 20, 50, 100 names of people that run conferences, run associations, run local meetups, etc. You're going to mail a copy of your book to them. Right now, you've tried to reach out to them on LinkedIn. Hopefully, you've made a little warm contact. You've even told them, "Listen, I want to send you a copy of my book for free. It's my gift to you." The best thing to do, if you can, is warm them up first on LinkedIn. But even if you can't warm them up on LinkedIn, you're going to mail them a copy of your book. Yes, you're going to mail that to them. And it's going to cost you a little bit of money, $3 to print a beautiful bookstore quality book like this, and then another $1 or so in postage to get it out to them, right? Now you can pay a company to do this if you send out a lot, and so there's a little handling cost, or you can just do it yourself, right? So let's call it $4 or $5 to actually get it into somebody's hands. You're also going to put in the envelope, right? It's a thick envelope because it's got your book in it. You're going to put in the envelope an introductory letter. And the introductory letter is very simple, right? There's nothing complicated about it. It's, hi, Mrs. Johnson. I wanted to give you a copy of my best-selling book that discusses, topics such as X, Y, and Z as related to their conference, as related to what their business is. And I noticed that you have a conference coming up on such and such a date on this topic. I actually discussed that very topic in my book on pages 106 through 118. Love for you to take a look at it. Let's connect over the next few days. Signed, Rob. Really simple. By the way, I'm recording all this, so that script you'll have on this in perpetuity. You'll have it forever. So you can it's really simple. You don't have to make it complicated. You're just saying hello. You're letting them know why you're sending the book out because it relates to their conference. It relates to the thing that you could speak on, and you're going to talk about the very topic that they're having their conference on and how there might be a great connection, right? And you're even going to send them to the pages of a great case study that they may read, right? So then the next step is after you've sent that with that cover letter, you're then going to wait 2, 3, 4 days after it's been received, and you, even better, would be an assistant. You could pay a virtual assistant $20 to $30 for a week of this, and all they're going to do is pick up the phone, and they're more than likely going to get the gatekeeper, right? Because it's not going to go right to the president of a company or the person that's running the association in most cases, if it's a big association. And very simply, they're going to say, hi, this is so-and-so. I'm calling for Mr. Kosberg. We want to make sure that Miss Johnson received a copy of Rob's book for free. Did Miss Johnson get a copy of Rob's book? Yes or no? Yes, she did. Fantastic. Do you know if she had a chance to take a look at it at this point? She has not. Okay, great. Well, listen, Rob's speaking schedule is booking up for the fall. And your conference coming up on XYZ date is right in his wheelhouse for speaking. I'm wondering if it would be a good idea for us to get Rob together and your boss together just to have a 15-minute, how do you do and discussion on whether or not there might be an opportunity there. What do you think? Now, on that first call, you may get an appointment booked or your assistant may get an appointment booked, but in many cases they won't. It will be, oh, you know what? I don't know that that's the most prudent thing right now. Here's what I'll do. I'll speak to Miss Johnson. I'll make sure she takes a look at the book, and then I'll let you know. And then your assistant would say, great, here's what I'll do. How about today's Tuesday? How about I call you back on Friday to make sure that that was done? Fantastic. Now there's an appointment for a follow-up call. If you send out 5 books a week like this with this kind of process, now the key is consistency, then you're going to get yourself booked for speaking engagements using this process. They're going to see you as an expert, right? Because you literally wrote the book on it. They're going to be framed, pre-framed to be interested. And guess what? In most cases, for these speaking opportunities, they're looking for people. They're looking for the right people to speak, people that are legitimate, people that are the right people to be on stage. And if you're there at the right time, as the right person, the right authority, then you're going to get the opportunity to do that speaking engagement. The key is you have to follow the process and you have to be consistent with it. It's not going to work in the first week. It's probably not going to work in the second week. Might get 1 or 2 in the 3rd or 4th week. But by the time you do this for 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, and you've sent out dozens of books and your assistant has called dozens of people, you're going to start booking engagements and opportunities. And then it becomes a snowball effect, because one opportunity leads to 3 or 4 others when you do a great job speaking in front of your ideal audience. Now, you may not be interested in speaking every single week, which is totally fine. Some of you may be, because that may be a thrill to do that. After you do that for a year or 2, you may not be so interested in it, because being on the road and doing all of that does take a toll. However, then all you have to do, if you maintain this same process, is cherry pick the best opportunities, the ones that will pay you the most, the ones that are in front of your perfect client, the ones that you love doing or that are closest to you. See, if you have a flood of opportunities, if you have a flood of potential speaking engagements, then you can pick the cream of the crop and not worry about the rest. So that's your process. That's the power of speaking. That's the TAP process. Target, assets, process leads to opportunities for you to do incredible and make a lot of money and make a big impact in speaking. So there you go.